thank you for joining the show. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to catching up today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like the place that we always start is kind of what does life look like right now for an elite athlete in quarantine?
It's very different than
Yeah.
I haven't had so much free time since I think I'm like 9 years old. I started training then, and it's been like nonstop. If anything, I get like 2 weeks off here or like maybe a month. But even still, like then it's like seeing family, taking care of doing certain things. And now I don't have that. Like,
Yeah.
can't really do training. There's only so much you can do. And I did it in the beginning. And I mean, I was supposed to be qualifying for the Olympics. I felt really ready.
Right.
And that all just got taken away from me. So I really haven't been handling it that well. So I tried to do we were doing like online classes, which
Okay.
if they weren't done for like 3 months. Doing it for 3 months is really just like banging away on a mask, which is just one anyway. So, and I knew it wouldn't last 2 weeks. I knew it would be a while. So I did it in the beginning, but one, I actually have a fractured vertebrae, which not a lot of people know about. I had it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a pars fracture. I had it before Rio. So that's apparently never goes away. Nobody told me that for like a year that I had it.
That feels like an important detail,
right?
To have with the diagnosis.
Oh, my back hurts. Like, I wonder why. It's the same way. Like when I had my pars, and they're like, "What do you mean the same way? Like, you still have that? That doesn't go away."
Right.
Oh, cool.
Information that would have been helpful yesterday. Yeah.
I could have benefited from that one, but so and then my floors are super slippery in my Brooklyn apartment. That's where I was for like the first month, I guess.
Okay.
I was also stuck in Europe when all this started.
So I was trying to do some research before speaking, and I saw that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was over there for training camp, and then we were supposed to have one of our qualifying tournaments in Belgium. So from Budapest, I went to Poland to visit my grandparents. My grandma has breast cancer.
Okay. Sorry to hear that.
And the day I was supposed to be flying to France was the day after Trump announced that he was closing the borders. And that's when everything started escalating everywhere, all over Europe.
Right.
So then our training camp was canceled. And then luckily my flight was at like 4 p.m. Otherwise I would have already been in France and probably stuck there. And then they canceled the World Cup. So it's like, okay, well now I got to rebook my flight.
Yeah.
Bought a flight. I think I bought it for Sunday. I should have bought it for, I think I got stuck on a Thursday. I should have bought it for Saturday, but it was too expensive. Then my flight from Sunday got pushed back to Monday. And then Poland, I think Friday night, and like the prime minister announced that they're closing the borders, no outgoing flights, no incoming flights.
Oh, wow.
So then I like was hysterical because I'm fine being in Poland. My whole family's, or most of my family's there. I have a lot of friends, but it's just kind of like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back. And that was a terrifying aspect of it. So then from that point, I think it was like the 13th, 14th, and they pushed my flight to March 29th.
Okay. Oh, geez. So wait, so how does that work actually getting like you and other like Americans out of the country? Like, because if they've cut off all travel, were they just setting up some flights just to like get people back home, or like how did that work?
No, they weren't. They didn't, and I started going through the embassy and they're like, there's nothing we can do. There's no flights.
Right.
So I was just like, I really didn't know what to do. But then, like I said, the situation kept getting worse. And like they canceled my the flight from the 29th, and they pushed it back to April 11th. And that's kind of when I got that information. I was like, I need to get out. So I was going to get a flight from Berlin, but then they were closing border. Like it was difficult to get on a bus. I also had a cough. I was super sick from February, not with Corona.
Okay. I was going to say the timing of this here is
like 6 weeks of a cough. And it wasn't dry cough, no other symptoms. But so like I was also worried about that, like taking a 15-hour, something like that, bus ride across. And then like, what if they didn't let me fly out? Then I'd be stuck in Germany. They were only letting Polish citizens back in, and I could get Polish citizenship. We never did the papers. So then I'd be stuck in Germany. But then Poland did a whole thing, a movement where they were bringing their citizens back. So they had flights coming back, and they didn't want to be sending empty flights. So then they were letting people fly out. So I managed to get like one of the last few seats on one of those flights, which is like, they only flew like 60 people. So I don't know how it was the last seat, but I managed to do that.
Okay. And so that was a flight back to the States, that flight that Poland was orchestrating. Wow. Yeah. I mean, because when you shut down the borders like that, like, I mean, at any given moment, there's so many Americans abroad, and like for any country, right? Like you could say that, like, so that's wild. Well, thankfully you were able to get back.
Or else I'd still be.
Yeah, I know. We'd be doing this from Poland. So, so you're Polish then, right? Or at least it sounds like you have, there we go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
From Poland. I was born in the States. But I was like a year and a half old, and I went to live in Poland until kindergarten.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So, okay, that's really interesting. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, how did you initially get into fencing? Because in America, right, like it's not nearly as common as, you know what I mean, the other sports that are readily available. Does it have anything to do with like your Polish background?
Kind of, actually, a little bit.
Okay.
First of all,
sorry if I'm taking a huge leap here.
No, it actually worked out. The sport has grown tremendously since 22 years, 23 years, I lost count, that I've been involved. Like back then, it wasn't even a ridiculous question. People would ask me if I build fences. They're like, what is fencing? Now I say it. And like, now when I get that question, it's kind of like, we kidding? Like, what's
right.
Completely normal. Nobody knew anything about it.
Yeah.
But my mom was working at a bank called Polish Slavic Federal Credit Union. I was going to Polish school on Saturday mornings. And this fencing club was in the same building as the Polish school. And my first coach was a client at my mom's bank and basically was like, hey, you should bring your daughter in. Does she do anything? Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, it's a great opportunity to get like into a college or even a scholarship. And us being like, my mom's an immigrant, and my parents were already going through a divorce at that point. So it's kind of like my mom being like, okay, well, if this is the way I can get my daughter into a free college, like absolutely. Right. So that was kind of like, I kind of always got yelled at if I didn't have a result. My mom was like, we're doing this for your college. Like, you need to get your shit together.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. And my mom's like super real. So there's no like sugarcoating anything. Like,
right.
Tell me how it is. So like at like, I don't know, 14 in a competition, I was like, I don't even know what college is. Why am I working so hard for this? So he was like, hey, bring her in. They brought me in. I was like 8 or 9 years old. They handed me a weapon. I got to hit kids. I mean, sounds great, right?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Absolutely.
Oh,
So were you playing any other sports then growing up, or just kind of like based on what we just talked about, did you start to specialize at an earlier age?
I don't know how old I was, like maybe 6, 7. I was doing gymnastics. But since, I am 6 feet tall now, and I was always a very tall kid. The woman was like, if she's just doing this for fun, like great, but your daughter doesn't have a future in this sport. Which was, from what I remember, I was really sad about it.
Wait, so the coach said that?
The gymnastics coach, yeah.
Oh, the gymnastics coach. Okay, right, because you're going to be so tall.
Yeah, and then in Poland, I would have to stand between 2 trees, and my cousins would kick a soccer ball at me. And that was pretty much the extent of my athletics.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, so you've always been focused on fencing then? Pretty
much, yeah. In high school, everyone kept telling me to play basketball or run track. So I played a season of basketball, which I hated. We lost every game.
Okay.
I think we did more running during basketball than I probably would have done during track and field.
Yeah.
And horseback riding, but that's about it.
Okay. That's interesting. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I've seen a fencing match, and I'm going to be completely honest in that, other than that, completely ignorant on the sport. And I actually had a lot of fun reading about it prior to this. But, one of the things I want to hear from you in your perspective is kind of what are the attributes or skills that make up a great fencer?
See, that's complicated because there isn't one set of things that you need to be a great fencer, which is like the beauty of it all. Like, right, in basketball, you basically have to be tall. In volleyball, you have to be tall. Gymnastics, like we said, it's not great if you're tall. You have to be on the shorter side.
Right.
So in fencing, you can be tall, short, fat, skinny. It doesn't matter. It's such a sport. Where while I am taller and I have longer reach, I have more target area. I'm never going to be as fast as somebody that's shorter. I'm never going to be able to change directions as somebody who's shorter. Any movement that I make with my arms is going to be a bigger mistake than it would be for somebody shorter than me. Yeah. So that's kind of the cool thing of it all. Like you have to learn what you're good at and work on that and make that even stronger. And then when you look at your opponent, you have to notice and figure out very quickly what are their strengths and weaknesses and use it against them. So very tactical.
Yeah. And I guess to what extent do you get to like prepare for your opponent? Like, I imagine at the collegiate level, you know who's coming up that week. But do you actually scout out the individuals that you're going to be going up against to try and get a read on kind of what they do from a technical perspective beforehand? Or is it much more like on the fly, learn as you go within like that match itself?
No, you can do. I mean, it really depends. In collegiates, like you knew people because for the most, like either you're trained, like already competing against them on the national level, and they would come into collegiate because I was doing both. So you know them from that, and then I don't know, like my lessons would kind of be built along like what they're going to be doing.
Okay.
So like, okay, they're going to be doing this. Like, this is where you have to work on. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to pretend to be them, and you're going to get to like fake fence me. At World Cups, you have a lot of video. Like if you Google my name, you'll come see a bunch of videos from like international competitions, and that's for most competitors. And I mean, like for the most part, like you also have an idea. Like each country has their own school of thought, so you know.
Interesting.
Like Italians are going to be. They take lessons. We also have 3 different weapons. So they kind of take foil lessons as well as saber lessons. So their technique is a little bit different in that sense. They like to do, I mean, whatever, I'm getting technical terms here.
No. Because I was going to ask you about this too. Like I didn't realize at first that there was actually like, I don't know what the right phrase is, like 3 different disciplines within fencing, or I guess 4 technically, right? 3. Okay.
Yeah. Saber, foil, epee. And then on the, like to finish answering that question on the national level, you kind of, it's a 1-day competition. So you don't really have the time to like do the research because World Cups are 2 days. So like you finish day 1 and you know who you're fencing the next day. So you can spend time with your coach or just doing a video analysis. In domestic competitions, it's a 1-day event. So you don't really have all that time to prepare, and you find out who you fence like that morning. Like I know who's in my pool, like not even an hour, like 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
I have notes written out on people. I'll ask my club mates and be like, hey, have you fenced this person? What do you like? Do you have any ideas?
Right.
Watch them as like, because you have 5 or 6 people you're going to fence, you have somebody that's first. So that's the person you know the least about. And then later on, you can kind of watch your opponents competing against other people. So you can get a bit there. And then like direct eliminations start, and you find out, like you kind of see your bracket, you know, more or less who you could be competing against. And again, either notes that I have, or I'll ask a teammate, or it's somebody that I've already fenced against.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's interesting too, that like countries have their own style. And I guess my thought after hearing that is, and knowing, I mean, looking back, right? Like you won a bronze medal in 2016, the Olympics, which is incredible. And then you just won the gold medal 2019 Pan Am Games, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that might answer my question right there, but like on the world stage, has the US traditionally been like one of the top fencing countries? Or, you know, just kind of going back to what you said earlier, there's been a lot of growth in the sport in the last 20 years. Are we just like kind of starting to see success as a country now?
Yes and no. Like it also comes in waves, which is very interesting.
Oh, okay.
I know there's a whole bunch of medals, I think. I've never really stopped to do the history. I keep saying I will, but I don't. I'm pretty sure the people I'm thinking of have medals, like back in the day. And then there was like in women's saber, we've kind of dominated, or done well. I guess dominate is no longer the term, but my Rio teammate, Marla Zagunas, won the gold medal for the first time in 2004 when women's saber showed up at the Olympics. 2004, 2008. 2012, she didn't. She got 4th, I believe. And then 2016, Individually, we didn't have any medals at women's saber, but we did have their team medal in our bronze medal.
Yeah.
But it's different for different weapons. So women's epee wasn't doing well, and they started doing well the last few years. I think men's foil is like, they're dominating now. Like they win medals almost at every single World Cup. They're killing it. So it kind of, like I said, there's different weapons, so there's different things that happen. And then it's, for the most part, it kind of comes in waves. Just because like people, right, are gunning after the Americans. So then like we're the target and then somebody else becomes a target. We have time to improve and gun after them. So
So how, and you said you do saber, how did you settle on that weapon versus the other two?
So it kind of happened to me that I walked into the one that I really belong in. So my first fencing club actually was all saber.
Oh, okay.
So that really wasn't a choice, but very interesting. People don't understand this until like you see it happen. Everyone belongs in a certain weapon. Like if you wanted to fence, you couldn't just pick one. I mean, you could.
Right.
There's one that you're good at and you're going to enjoy more than the others.
Oh, interesting.
Like my sister, for example, she was a foil fencer, not for very long. She never wanted to do anything that I was doing, but we tried to put her in saber and she struggled, and we put her into foil and then she started having results. Like it's similar but different, because it's like a different attitude. So saber is like the sprinters.
Okay.
Is the marathon runners. I don't really know what to call foil, because they're kind of like in the middle.
Okay.
Like a hybrid.
And is that, like, when you say sprinter, is that more like really quick, agile, explosive type athletes? Like that weapon caters better to, like, I guess what people would think of as like a fast twitch type athlete. Is it literally like that? Okay.
Yeah. So foil and epee actually has time. So you have 3 minutes to score 5 points. Okay. It's so fast, we don't need that. Sometimes it'll go longer. Like because you can go to like a 5-4 match. Or it could end as quickly as 5-0. And it's like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So it's like in saber, you kind of have to have your idea for the most part entering, like before the referee says fence, you already know more or less what you're going to do. Sure, things can change and you can go into reactions, versus in foil and epee, you have the duration of the entire point to decide what you're going to do.
Oh, so like when I was asking, when you come up against maybe a competitor that you don't have any background or notes on, like, could you learn on the fly? It's almost like you kind of have to have a strategy laid out because it just happens so quick. Like there's
a lot. I mean, obviously you're gonna have confidence. So you're not like, you can't go and see everything. So there's different really ways of going about it. Of like, this is my idea, I'm going wholeheartedly, or I'm going to make the decision as I go along. Like I said, I kind of initially, when I really started like having results internationally, on like the national level, at the time you didn't really need to be. Fencing was also really developed. So like the fencing I had at like 16, if I went to a competition at 16 here, I think I would get destroyed. So that's changed. But like back then I remember like my first senior World Cup where I made a top 16, my initial ideas were, I'm going to go forward, I'm going to go back. And I would just alternate that and go from there. Now it's obviously, like I said, fencing has developed so much that if I did that, I would never have any results. But yeah, it helps to have a general idea of what you're going for, because then like, if I'm like, okay, I want to go forward and this person's like blasting me off the line, it's like, okay, never mind. And you've got to change, versus me being like, oh, what's going on? Oh my God, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, we talked a little bit about like, like literal preparation for your opponent, like mentally, how do you prepare for these like big international matches? And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the fencing community, there's a lot of like, there's always a World Cup, and it sounds like there's a much larger international component than I think other sports that like most Americans played growing up might have ever had to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, when you're younger, you have just like national competitions, and then you have international ones because they count more. And I think they're way more important because you can develop more, right? Like in America, there's just I don't know, a certain style. And if you're trying to make it to the Olympics, I don't know, the way this system is like created, we have 8 international competitions plus Pan American Championships, Pan American Games, which are a little bit different.
Okay.
Championships or Olympics, depending on the year. Meanwhile, domestic competitions on the senior level, we only have 4.
Okay. Got it.
But preparation, I mean, I've just kind of learned that I need to go out like being like, I need to murder everybody. Just like confidence. Like I went out, I won our competition in January, domestic competition. And there was no beating me that day. It didn't matter who you put out in front of me. I was beating them.
Yeah.
It felt so good to be out there. Like there was no, I don't know, like I didn't second guess anything. I did everything I had to do. Like I walked around with such confidence that like, I mean, people told me about that later. Like I kind of entered a state. I did the same thing, like the competition I qualified for the Olympics. Like it didn't matter what was happening around me. I was out essentially to kill. And like, I even had like someone would do something. There's like this one girl that I'm not a fan of, and she like showed her frustration. I remember like, I was laughing about this later. And I was like, I literally like looked and I was like, I'm going to kill you.
So, I mean, did you always have just like that killer mentality, or is that something that you developed over time? Like, you know, where does that come from?
I don't know. I don't think I'm generally not like an aggressive person, but it's also, I think it's because I've been fencing. I'm not really aggressive because it's funny, or it's been built into me. I don't really know which one it is. Nature or nurture. Right. Sure. Because like when I took off after the Olympics to heal my back, I remember like, it was like 12 weeks that I took off. And I remember it was like, my mom was like telling me that's like someone that said something to her. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, I'm totally going to fight him. I was like, you need to stop. Like, you keep trying to find different ways to fight people. I'm like, you can't be doing that.
Right.
I was laughing and we're like, Monica needs to go back to practice. Like, we can't be doing this anymore.
Yeah. For everyone's safety. So, you know, like what does training look like for fencing? So I imagine like the sport is so skill specific. A lot of time is spent actually fencing. You know, but like, how are you like preparing your body to kind of like be at like your peak performance state?
So it's different for every athlete and different for the weapons. Because obviously
I keep forgetting there's always the three weapons are like so distinct in terms of
and there's also, like I said, different body types, right? Than somebody else. So it's about it's not so much about strength as it is speed. So, and also our bodies are disproportional. Like one side of my body is larger than the other. Like my one calf's bigger than the other because the motions are just so different.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not running. I'm moving forward in like a specific stance.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lot of it's just like maintaining my body. I mean, I'm not like an 18-year-old athlete anymore. So I have to, again, things are structured differently where I make sure that like I have problems with my back. So my core can't be too strong. My back has to be strong. My legs have to, I don't know, I'm getting very specific here, but.
No, but like that's actually interesting too. Cause like, I feel like I can't even tell you how many people have reached out and be like, I have back problems. Like, can you please have someone on to talk about like what to do? So actually that people might really be interested to hear. Yeah, here we go. Finally, we're getting to the meat here. Yeah. So I mean like how do you train through an injury that like you found out isn't going to heal?
So it's just keeping like, as long as I really maintain like my body in the way that it needs to be, and I just like listen to my body, which I used to, the reason it happened is because I don't listen to rest days. For me, a rest day was me being lazy and me not working hard, especially when I got to the Olympics. I was like, or like the time frame of like me, like the last stretch of it, like there was no rest days. And I still struggle with rest days. I think quarantine has taught me a lot about it because everything's been a rest day for me. At this point, like, even an 8-mile walk to me is a rest day.
Yeah.
Because that's nothing for me.
No, that sounds like a nightmare.
So I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. I think I'm going to work out every single day and probably injure myself again.
Yeah.
Being able to do it. But I just kept overworking. I kept lifting. I kept doing this. Like for me, if I was tired, it was like, okay, well, that means I just need to suck it up. I need to work harder today versus like being like, oh, it's time to take a day off. So that's really important to listen to your body. There's days that it hurts. Like even at practice, I want to keep going. And I was like, come over to my coach. And I'm like, my knee hurts. I'm going home. And he's like, why do you look so sad? I'm like, because I don't want to go home. I want to keep fencing, but my knee hurts. Like, let's not talk about this more. I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like there's times like I'm like, you can see I'm visibly in pain. My coach is like, go home.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. He's like, I see you limping. Can you please get out of this gym?
Right.
So I think that's really important. But I'm just like learning about what your body, like there's been physical therapy stuff people gave me and it didn't work. It didn't help me. And I just ended up finding what works. And I've been like this past season, for the most part, my back's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just had, I don't know if you know him, but Cal Dietz, he's like the head strength coach for USA Hockey and at University of Minnesota. And we he was on, I guess, it's this week's episode when this is being recorded. Shit, I'm not supposed to give that away. But we talked a lot about how like the old notion of if you're like feeling down that day or you're dragging, like that's the day you need it the most, like work twice as hard. He's like, no, he's like, back off. He's like, you need to like survive in advance, like live to fight another day and come back when you're healthy, because like getting injured is what's going to actually set you way back.
Yeah. Even workouts, the same thing. And it's, like I said, for me, it's like all kind of a competition. And like, if I feel like I'm tired, it's like, no, I got to push through it. Like, stop being whiny, like do it. And I actually demolished my shin in September. It was my last box jump, my last set of all, like my circuit. Like these circuits are horrible.
Yeah.
I love them, but I hate them.
Who do you train with like in like non-Olympic years? Or do you have your own private coach that you work with consistently? And then once you qualify? I guess either, really, actually. I've
had the same fencing coach since I'm 15.
Oh, no way. How cool.
He's one of the best coaches in the country. So
yeah. Okay. Good company to keep.
I still learn so much. Like he surprises me all the time. Like we'll do something in a lesson. I'm like, how did you come up with this? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I was like laying in my bed. I was watching some videos and I came up with it. I'm like, this changes so much. Or like you talk to him like after a match or after like you're like fencing and practice and he's like asking you these questions. He's like, why was that your logic? And you're like explaining, he's like, why wouldn't this be your logic? And you're like, huh, thanks.
Yeah. Just like a genius of the sport.
So, yeah. So it's, if I came to a point where I wasn't learning still from him, I think I would question leaving him, but as that never happened and we get along so well. And it's like kind of a relationship where you also have to build trust. I'm not a person that trusts easily. Like in the beginning, I kind of argued a lot more. And like someone would say something and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do what I want. But now it's kind of like, we've learned to really work together because we've been together for so long.
Yeah.
Where like, he can even predict my move or like, again, he knows what I'm good at. He knows what we're working on. So yeah, at this point, I definitely wouldn't leave him. In terms of strength conditioning coach, I actually have somebody in Poland writing on my programs.
Oh, no way. How did you land on the trainer in Poland?
Family friends.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right on. So he drafts up all the workouts and then you just do them remotely. I guess you're based out of New York typically when there's not a global pandemic happening, right? Okay, cool. Yeah. So he's over in Poland. So he writes up the programs for you. Like what sort of like workouts are you doing then for fencing? Cause like you said, it's more about speed versus, I don't know. You're not deadlifting, I imagine.
I actually was deadlifting before Rio and that's I can't do that anymore because my back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's kind of, let me think back. I haven't lifted since February.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because when I started traveling. So like I said, I have one day a week where it's circuits, where it's like eight different exercises and I repeat them. I do like each one 8 times. And then I have a 2-minute break. So it's kind of like, I also think strength and conditioning is a lot more developed in Europe than it is here in the States. Maybe not for every sport, but for fencing for sure, or like just like the amount of studies they do. So like when we kind of talked about what you prepare, he's like, okay, well, like, are you preparing for like the way that you're competing? I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you have like pools where you have a group of 5 or 6 people, you fence a 5-touch match with each person, and then you have a break, and then you fence another one. Like, do you train for that? And I was like, no. And he's like, why not?
Right.
Like, that never came to mind. No one ever talked to me about that. So that's kind of, we developed, like we did the circuit training where it's like I said, the set of 8, I have a second, like 10-second break, then it's another set of 8. So it's kind of like a match. A little bit longer, but like still then I have a 2-minute break. And I do the same thing again, and I have a 2-minute break. So it's kind of like building in that aspect. And then it's like strengthening my shoulders, my back, my core, my legs, but nothing's about like building big muscle.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's interesting. We've had a couple of like really well-respected strength and conditioning coaches here in the States on. And I mean, almost all the research that everyone references, like to your point, is out of Eastern Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it's out of like the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting to hear. And the other thing that I've heard a lot lately too is like the great coaches and the athletes who are really getting a lot out of their training are the ones who are like recognizing like to what extent is your training actually moving you forward in the specific needs of your sport versus like this more broad notion of like, oh, I just need to get stronger. I need to get faster. It's like, well, okay, well, like how can we specialize that a little bit? Right. So I feel like that's kind of what I'm hearing here. How are you handling like not being able to like work out in the way that you're accustomed to during like this pandemic?
I just try not to think about it.
Yeah.
Because it sucks. Like I said, I just feel like constantly lazy. I dealt with it a lot worse beforehand. I've gotten a lot better about it. Like when I came back from Europe, I was just eating nonstop. Like I think I was actually like depressed. Just eating nonstop. Now, like
like snacking and just like whenever you were just sitting around bored. Yeah.
I would be constantly in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I've like now kind of been like, okay, like I'm not working out as much. I don't need to eat as much. So like I maybe eat 2 meals a day. Which like before was like 4 or 5. Again, not like giant meals, but that's kind of the way I was eating because I was doing this workout, that workout, walking the dog, something. So I've gotten a lot better about that, but I mean, it's difficult. I mean, my entire life I've worked out, in some way or another. It's part of who I am. Like I said, like even during off season when I don't need to be working out, I'll still go run at the park with the dogs. I'll go hiking. I'll do something, but I can't run on concrete here. They had parks closed.
Because the back.
New York. So like here in Jersey, it's a lot better. But and then I was running in the parks, but now because the winter wasn't aggressive, there's so many ticks. So I can't even run anymore there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
ticks are the real deal. If you're not in the Northeast and you don't know about tick troubles,
it's bad.
It's bad, folks. You heard it here first. Wow. So and then the 2020 Olympics, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so you were just the 2019, you won a gold medal at the Pan Am Games. I would have to imagine you were probably in pretty good standing to compete for a spot on the 2020 roster. Like actually, had you guys already gone through qualifying? No. Okay.
Nope. We weren't done. We had two World Cups left.
Oh, wow.
And 1 domestic competition.
So do you have any visibility into like what's next? Or is it just like wait and see still? See, that's so crazy. Nothing. Man.
Because I mean, for us, like the international committee has to decide when we could start scheduling a World Cup. Yeah. And then it's a country that's going to take it. Like normally we'd have our first domestic competition in October or November. And then our first international would be like either November or December. I'm hearing that they're not planning anything until January.
Okay.
Which kind of makes sense because each country is going through different phases, right? Like Brazil was so they just started. God knows how long that's going to take. We for 3 months to be out for the most part. So that's probably the same for them. Then they told us we're going to get 2-3 months of training before we start competing. Yeah. So it sounds like that puts us in January. And then the theory, or everybody's saying how this is all going to start again in January. I don't think we're having an Olympics next year.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Actually, well, I don't know how big like the Pan Am team is, but my buddy Kareem actually is on like the men's 3-on-3 basketball team that just won a gold medal.
I did a podcast with Kareem.
Stop it. You know Kareem?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know him personally, but like he somehow found me or somebody, I don't know. I don't remember how he found me. Maybe because it was all my fundraising articles, but I did because he has a podcast.
I know. Well, I didn't know he actually started it. That son of a beat me to the punch. That's awesome. Kareem's the man. He's such a good guy. We went to college together. I've kept in touch with him for a long time, but very cool. I did not realize that. Wow. Crossover.
I was working for Spotify?
Yeah. Yeah.
he recently told me that he quit to train full time.
Yeah, exactly. And then here we are. You know everything. Conversation over. All right, let's wrap it up. Well, cool. So, okay. So, I mean, like, I guess I've asked this question 4 different ways already, so we can quit beating that horse to death. Now you also do fitness modeling. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, kind of. I was a fitness model with State Management. I left them and now I'm doing Ford Media with Ford. So kind of like social media model-ish.
Okay. So like, do you train any differently for that business, or does the training that you do for your fencing, like, I guess what I'm really asking is, like, do you have to train differently to get like an aesthetic look that you might want for the modeling piece, or does like the performance training that you're doing for fencing, like, just you're good? Do you know what I mean? I guess
I do. It's a little bit different. For example, for fencing, I don't need to have a 6-pack. But I'm making that for the whole fitness side. Definitely do a lot more cardio so I can stay on the slimmer side. Because with fencing, your legs bulk up because that's what you're using.
Right.
So I definitely do a lot more cardio than most of the other girls. And I don't like raise weights to past a certain level. I just gain muscle very, very easily. Like, to maintain a 6-pack, I really don't need to work hard. Which is like a blessing, but also a curse. Like I said, like if God forbid, I start lifting slightly heavier weights, I'm going to start gaining muscle, which everyone's like, oh, well, I won't do that. But that's not true. So like, that's kind of a factor in it. But so I just do a little bit more of a little bit different.
Okay. Got it. And so what does your off season look like? Cause I know you mentioned that before.
It really depends on like the year or whatever. So I've been on the national team since 2016, except last year I didn't make it. I missed it by, I was in 5th position, I think. So I ended the season. Our last World Cup was sometime in May. So I had June, July, and August off, which normally you would have. Oh no, just kidding. I ended up going to Pan Am, so I didn't have that. So we had end of July. We were there August, I think. So I started training again like end of June. That's what it was. So I had like 2 weeks off. I started training again. I did Pan Am Games and I took 2 weeks off and then I started training again. So that was a little bit different than normally would happen. Otherwise you get like after World Championships, you have like a month or 6 weeks ish off.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Got it.
It's like the longest season in the world.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of off season there.
No. That's why, like, right now, like, people are like, oh, I can't wait to start training. And I'm trying to figure out if that's like the best thing to be doing. Because if we're not competing until December, January, I know I can't stay motivated and train like full force right now for all that time.
Yeah. It's like at some point you need to back off.
We had 6 weeks off from competing in January, February. And the entire time I was kind of like, should I take a week off? Like, I don't want to be just training full force for 6 weeks in between World Cups. Like, that's stupid, but I did it. And it didn't feel good. But so I might just do it. I don't know. I might I might wait until gyms open up, start doing like the physical preparation since I haven't been doing anything, and then start going to practice like slowly, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all me speaking, and my coach is going to call me and be like, your butt's coming in tomorrow. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been fencing now. I was looking, you graduated from Penn State in 2012, right? So you've been doing this. Well, I guess, I mean, is it even, to what extent are there like professional fencing opportunities? Like, are they all still treated as like amateur events, or is there like, at any point, like cash prizes for any of these competitions? Like, how does that aspect of it kind of work?
I would say it's definitely still amateur. Like, I can't survive off of just fencing alone, unfortunately. But we do have, I mean, obviously if you medal at the Olympics, you get a cash prize, which is a very small amount in comparison to like what you have to give up to train for the Olympics.
Right.
So it's like 25,000 for gold, 15 for silver, 10,000 for bronze, which like you train for 4 years, but
yeah.
And it was taxable before, also not great.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was a whole mess. Thank God for Obama changing that rule. But if we medal at a team event at a World Cup, you get money. You split 5,000 amongst 4 people. I think a World Championships, it's like 6,000. You split amongst 4 people. You get some money if you're in the top 16 of the world. The amount has changed through the years. I know, like when I was in the top 16, like last time, it was a significant amount of money. Now it's significantly less.
So, I mean, you know, one, you've been doing it for 8 years, like, and obviously there was this was an Olympic year. You know, like how long do you want to continue to fence for?
Honestly, it really depends.
Yeah.
Like I said, the fact that you can't survive and make money. I mean, I've had to fundraise for this season. I don't even know how I'm going to pay for next season. I went through most of that money because you can't really have a full-time job.
Right.
Because you're training all the time, you're traveling, you have training camps, all this stuff. And then you're paying for those competitions to get there. So if you're not top 4 in the country, they're not paying for you. Yeah. So it's just a lot. So I don't know. If I sign a sponsor after 2021, if it happens, I would consider staying. If not, I think I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like
create a career. And like I said, like I see my friends buying houses and going on vacations and whatever. And here I am trying to like rub 2 pennies together in hopes of getting a third.
Right. Well, it just seems like, for one, how much we like value performance at the Olympics and on like the international stage. Like we do ask athletes to give up way too much.
Yeah.
Especially on a 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And like in Europe, it's a lot different. I mean, like every time I think about it, I get really angry. But Russia, I mean, you get the girls, they got a gold medal. They got a $1 million partner purchase for them in Moscow. And they also got a car.
Really?
I got $10,000.
see, that's the silver lining about Russia you never hear.
Right?
That's insane. That's insane. So, yeah, I mean, so, you know, for you, like, what are your plans? Or I guess, you know, what do you see yourself doing next? Right? Like, you've clearly built up such a successful career within fencing. And I know that you're doing like the fitness modeling, and you have what seems to be a really successful like social media platform that you've built up for yourself. Like, have you thought about what you're doing next, or are you just kind of gonna take it as it comes?
I'm trying to plan for it a little bit, but not at the same time. It's really difficult to stop to think about it because, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm so behind, even though I'm successful in this area, like in the game of like real life, I'm pretty far behind. Like people have developed their careers, like they're not an entry level position. And I'm not there. It really depends. Like if I make an Olympic team, a lot changes. I mean, I've gotten so many opportunities based off of having a bronze medal at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's really hard to plan because it really just depends on what that route's going to go. I mean, I'm kind of starting to apply for positions to do because a lot of companies are doing remote for the rest of the year. So if I could land something like that and be able to work and like kind of talk to them and be like, listen, like these days I practice at this time, like I'll work in the morning, I can work in the evening to finish my projects, or I'll just work longer on the days that I have off, something along those lines. I'm sure I can find a company to do that. And like I said, remote in general is already going to be better because then when I'm traveling, I can still be doing my job.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I'm trying to do. But also, again, take it as it comes. Like, I don't know, I kind of would like to go into acting. I would give that a try.
Yeah.
People tell me I'm good on camera. I don't know what that means. But okay, I'm good.
Yeah, just take it as a compliment. Don't overthink it. That's what I would say.
Sounds good. And there's also never been a female Olympian that's won an Oscar. So.
Oh, hey. It's about damn time.
Right.
That's awesome though. Yeah. It is crazy how much you have to sacrifice to be successful at that level.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, and probably most people who are listening to this with a day job, is they're like, you know what, like having the security of a day job is not that sweet.
Yeah, I remember that. Like when I was thinking about quitting, people are like, don't quit. Like, you're going to regret this down the line. You're going to be sitting at a desk. And I'm like, right. But at the same time, like, I don't know how I'm going to pay bills next month. So, like, having that stress for so many years and then not having that stress, I feel like it's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. And we had Adam Nelson on the show, who I think he made 3 different Olympics. He won a gold in 2008. He won the silver in 2004. But yeah, he was at that like kind of point. I think it was like 2010 or 11. He was saying, and he was still like top in the world, and he was about to back out. And people were just like, "What are you doing? Like, you're still the top of your game." Like, he's like, "Look, man, if I lose my sponsors, like I have nothing. Yeah. And I have a wife, I have kids now. Like, it's a real decision." So yeah, it's like a shame that there's not a better system set up to support that.
And I mean, like the U.S. Olympic Committee pays me $300 a month.
Now, does that get taxed? Because I know everyone wants to know. I'm just kidding. Oh man.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the crowdfunding piece, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did that go?
Amazingly, New York Post picked it up, and it
cool.
blew up all over. Fox News picked it up. Business Insider, Maxim did a feature. Barstool Sports did a feature. Some other ones I don't even remember. So I wanted 21,000, and I ended up over maybe even 31,000 at this point. People still, I took that down that link, or like it's no longer on my social media.
Right.
I turned it off. I keep saying I'm going to do it. I keep forgetting to do it. So somehow people are still finding it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. It feels like, I love watching like The World's Strongest Man. I don't know if that's necessarily in your realm of interests, but those guys have often like struggled with the same thing. Like there's just not a real great way to monetize that sport. And like what they're doing is just like doubling down on YouTube, doubling down on Instagram, and like finding ways to like build their personal brand. So it's cool to hear that it sounds like you've done that for yourself as well. You know what I mean? And I imagine there will probably be a lot of opportunities that will come out of that eventually, whenever you're ready to jump at them.
We'll see. I hope so. My fingers are crossed. That's kind of how I keep. Everyone's like, "Well, what are you doing after?" Everybody's favorite question, like, "What are you doing afterwards?"
Yeah. Damn it. Sorry.
Wants to ask that question.
Yeah. Well, cool. So, what was I going to ask you next? I had one last question, but that's okay. So, I mean, outside of fencing, like, what are you interested in right now? Like, how are you like staying, keeping your sanity during these times?
I lost my sanity, but
okay, fair enough.
Hanging on to the last thread. I got into plants.
Oh,
it's also going to be my new business. You can make a fortune on plants, apparently.
Yeah, a little horticulture.
It's kind of wild. There's one plant that's being sold for $300. So
tell the U.S. Olympic Committee.
Right? Like everyone's laughing. I'm like, I'm going to be going at competitions and be like, "Hey, do you want plants? I have like a really rare one." But I mean, it's something like it's a nice way to decorate. So like, I don't know. I've been doing that, like decorating my apartment. We put shelves in. Like I pretty much like have a new idea for my roommates. I'm like, "Let's do this." And everyone's like, has nothing better to do. They're like, "Yeah, this sounds great. Let's do it." Yeah. So that's something we've done. Decorating the apartment, which I never ever thought of before. Before it was just like a place I slept. I woke up in the morning, ate breakfast, left, came home, and I went to sleep. So I didn't even know what it looked like, to be honest. And I started painting.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay. So, I think the question that everyone wants to know has probably been thinking, who is the better podcast host, me or Kareem?
I can't answer that question.
We'll edit in me.
They're both tied.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'll take it. Kareem's a good guy. Kareem's a decent guy. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really great conversation. And I think, fencing is something that I think to a lot of people, like, they're aware of it, but like, they're not, I think, aware of like the demands of the sport, the intricacies like within the sport itself. So it's been a lot of fun to learn about. Are you doing anything actually like within the US to help grow the sport? Like is fencing regionalized in any way? Like, and I'll tell you why I asked. Growing up north of Seattle, like I didn't know what lacrosse was until I was like a senior in high school. Do you know what I mean? Because that sport is just so regionalized. Is fencing the same?
Kind of, but I mean, I think it's because of the way people migrated. Like it's definitely far more developed on the northeast coast area. Again, when people coming for overseas, like that's the direction they go in.
Mm.
So I feel like that's common for a lot of things. But I mean, you can, like, there's clubs in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So like in Shreveport, Louisiana, I think that's what it is. That's where that's
Oh,
like, there's a club.
those fencing Cajuns.
I don't know, like they're kind of everywhere at this point, but definitely for the most part is on the Northeast.
The Northeast. Yeah.
But they're everywhere. Like Portland that's where Mariel Zagunis is from, and she's my Rio teammate. There's a bunch of clubs in California.
Got it.
They're pretty much, they aren't everywhere yet, but it's a lot more accessible than it used to be.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, and for people who want to follow you, where's the best place to do that?
Instagram or now TikTok. Now that's a new thing. So
TikTok.
My new dancing videos, they're on TikTok.
All right. Perfect. Well, awesome. We'll make sure to point people there. And like I said, thank you again. And we'll certainly be pulling for you. Hopefully in 2021. If not, you're going to have to ride it out a little bit longer.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I keep going after that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.